There we go. Full text. Okay. So there is nothing I hate more in this world than somebody giving out information that they have not vetted at all. I'll see it a lot on Facebook or on Twitter where somebody will like tweet something or say something with like a post, like a link to an article, and then I go and read the article, and it turns out it is the exact opposite of what this person is trying to say. And you know, they just read the headline, and so they think they presuppose everything that's in that article because of the headline, right? Remember, headlines are supposed to be very exaggerated, catchy, trying to catch the potential reader into actually reading their article. Which is why on like a lot of CNN articles, when you click on the link, you start scrolling down, it will tell you like, do you want to read more? And you know, every person that clicks read more, that's really good for their engine, like to a good gauge of how well they're able to attract readers. But okay, so how long has this been? 2 weeks? About 2 weeks. NBC dropped this article. Bring it right here. New study suggests transgender women maintain an athletic advantage over their cisgender peers even after a year on hormone therapy. Okay, so after reading that article, you're coming away with a bunch of ideas, right? Because the article makes the title makes clear. Transgender women maintain an athletic advantage over their cisgender peers even after 1 year. So the framing of this article title is very misleading, especially because it's even after 1 year on hormone therapy. And then you get people like Matt Walsh, sorry, not people, dumbasses like Matt Walsh, who commented, how much did they spend on this study to confirm the existence of biological sex? And it's funny because when you actually read the study, you find the whole point of this study was they took military, people in the military who were transitioning, and they tracked around, was it like 20 to 40 people? Oh yeah, here, yeah, 20, almost 30 trans men, 46 trans women, right? Initially it was like a couple hundred, but they washed it down through, you know, figuring out if somebody's already transitioning, when they transitioned, how are we going to track it equally? Like if somebody started transitioning like 10 years ago, they're not going to be in the study versus somebody who just started. The basic conclusion of this study, which was so if you don't know the politics of the Olympics, since transgenders have been allowed to play in the Olympics since the early 2000s, right? The early aughts. And this is a huge argument that pro-transgender athletes have, is that, oh, they've been allowed into the Olympics for so long, yet there has never been a transgender person in the Olympics. They've never been able to get in. The Olympics, their rules is that you have to be taking hormone therapy of at least, I think, you have to be within the range if you want to play in the women's sports. You have to be in the range of 5 to 10 nanomoles of androgen level if you want to compete in the women's sports, which is basically, if you're like a high-level woman who's an athlete in very competitive sports, odds are you probably have in that range. It is the upper range for the average woman, but you're an athlete, so you're going to have, in general, higher androgen levels. So I actually agree with I've said this before, I agree with the authors here. They say that basically you should wait at least 2 years. I think that is, I mean, every other study I've read on this kind of confirms that 2 years, you really start seeing results. And so what this study says is that after 2 years of being on hormone therapy, basically the difference between cis women and transgender women basically just disappear, or they're pretty much on par. They say this is for every field except for cardio. I think they say running. There is still an advantage for men. That does not go away. And then the same thing for the transgender men who go on testosterone. They find that actually after 2 years, I think after 1 year, they're almost on par. And then after 2 years, they're actually slightly stronger than the average male. Of course, these people were in the military and they're training. So, of course, it makes sense they're going to be higher than average. But hold on, there's a couple tables that outline this pretty well. Oh, here we go. Athletic performance. Okay, so pre-treatment, see the difference between trans women versus cis women, right? There's a humongous difference between a woman and a man who's transitioning into a trans woman, somebody who is not yet, but they have not yet taken the steps to medically transition, right? They might have already transitioned in other ways, but they have not started taking hormones. As you can see, there's a pretty big difference here, right? As you can see, after about 1 year, there doesn't seem to be too huge of a difference. After 2 to 2.5 years, it is basically within margins of error, right? And as you can see with trans women versus cis men, it actually increases like tremendously, the difference between the two. Push-up difference is basically on par. Sit-ups pretty much on par. The only thing, was basically the one, the cardio, the mile run. Here's a good demonstration of this. Just a few years on hormone therapy while still being active, right? These people are active military members. The performance that they give drops tremendously into the the women category. Let's see. And the whole point of this study was, it seems like after 1 year, there doesn't seem to be big enough effect. We recommend the Olympics change their vetting. I 100% agree with this, but it's not at all. How much did they spend on this study to confirm the existence of biological sex? Not once. In fact, if you actually read the study and you read the article that was based on the study, they make so many arguments for trans people being in. They make so many arguments for the difference between sex and gender, and two, they make so many arguments for trans people being involved in sports of their preference. They just want more parameters put in place, something that literally every person is pretty much in favor of. Everybody wants there to be some level of parity between players, you know. Of course, you get like weird examples where you have what's that woman from? I think she's from some like African nation. I forget her name. Like it starts with like an X or something. But she was born with like 20 to 25 nanomoles of androgen, which is like very, very male level of biologically male levels of androgen, right? And the Olympics was like, okay, I don't know if we could let this woman play, even though she's biologically female. It's too big of a difference between what our rules and regulations state. And so there was like this whole, I'm not sure if I think the Olympics said she couldn't play, but there was a humongous battle between the two, because she's saying, you know, I'm biologically a female, you're discriminating against me, blah, blah, blah. And their argument was, you know, we're trying to be fair.
Which at some point, it's kind of like, I mean, in that case, you know, she's born female. It's literally like my body. I mean, what's to say that a man that's like saying a guy who's 6'8" can't play basketball, because that's not.
Yeah, this is one thing I love about people who argue about like people playing in different sports. Like, oh, they have an advantage. Okay, well, you look at basketball, you don't see any like 5'9" people playing basketball, right? Obviously, there is some kind of difference between abilities genetically, not just through practice. Some people are just born genetically to be
it's a fucking thing.
Yeah, but in some people's heads, it's as soon as you bring up like trans people in different sports, the instantly goes to, oh, you're not gonna have any women ever competing ever. Which, I mean, you can make arguments for or against. This study seems to say the opposite. But if we're just going based off of competition, like I can make that argument that scrawny people are discriminated against because they don't have the proper genes to compete against, you know, the stronger, biologically stronger, taller men in sports, right? I mean, we could take this argument back so far. The only argument I think they have would be like, let's say in like 30 or 40 years, trans people, because there are barriers to entry for like trans people in sports. So in like 30, 40 years, let's say trans people are completely liberated, they're allowed to compete, whatever, and they're at parity. Let's say that it ends up that women now are unable to compete because, let's say, you know, the trans women just outcompete them. At that point, there'd probably be a problem. I don't think that's where the study goes to. That's not what these people are saying. Of course, this is also a hypothetical. But at that point, like I really like what the Olympics does, and what a lot of like high school teams do, which this article says that high schools and like most sports arenas, most sport competitions should not take the 1 year thing to heart, because it's mainly with people in their 20s, not people in their teens. But a lot of people are switching to, instead of like gender teams, it's more based off just straight up your hormones. So if you're somebody,
that's really the way to fucking, if really things,
yeah, just take gender out of it completely.
There, just if you're good enough, you're gonna go here. If you're not gonna go there.
Oh yeah, I mean, why, if it doesn't bring as much utility as something else, why even use it? Like, if you can't get everybody on a decent playing field using like gender pronouns, why not just go to something that's more accurate, like your hormone level, your biological makeup? That seems like the easier way to do it. And it seems like a lot of organizations are already doing this.
One of my favorite things is the I think it was a wrestler in, I forget where, like Minnesota or something like that, and what was it? She was a female. She was a female transitioning male. So he was a female transitioning male, and he was a wrestler, and he asked to compete in the male circuit.
Are you talking about the high school, the kid?
Yeah,
Who,
he
yeah.
wanted to compete in the male circuit, and they wouldn't let him. And then the literal headline when he won this,
Yep.
when he won his second straight state championship in the female circuit, was like transgender male wins female. So it was like painting him as the male. It was like he
Yep.
wasn't allowed to compete where he wanted to compete.
That is 100% right. So many people on Facebook, you know exactly who, by the way, was saying, "Oh, why are they letting these people do that?" And I'm commenting saying, "You realize, like, he wanted to play with the boys. The school forced him to play by his biological sex." But people don't read that far into the past the headlines. They just read the headlines and they come to their conclusions, and they don't read like 2 paragraphs into the article, which says, by the way, he's actually being forced to do this by the school. It's just so funny. I mean, you just added to my point, which is people don't know how to read studies or read. That's what's so annoying about the headlines. Oh yeah, we clicked on your tweet and we looked at the headline, but we didn't actually read the fucking article. Like, oh god, it's so goddamn annoying. Yeah, very, very big issue. People like Matt Walsh get like 3.8 thousand likes on their tweet when they're completely in the wrong. Like, completely. So fucking dumb. There was another example of this. I can't believe... Oh, no, actually, not an example of this. I don't know if I can find it now. Basically, it said that the angrier you get, the more likely you are to be open to like conspiracy theories or like misinformation about people you're angry at. And I mean, a lot of people are just, they don't understand trans people. They don't understand the like difference between gender or sex. And I mean, people are afraid of what they don't understand, and it's sad because, you know, they see these people like, oh my god, they're trying to change how we look at society. And I mean, society's always changing.
Treated like that, like,
yeah, these people have always existed. Now they're just saying we want our rights. We want to be respected. You could like bring back this whole
argument. Back in my day, it's like, no, yeah, you're right. You know what? Fucking people who are gay or trans.
I mean, all you got to say is back in, yeah,
didn't come out because they were fucking ridiculed.
Yeah,
like
they were, you know, killed, mutilated, you name it. Like, these people have always been around. They're just asking for acceptance, but people are afraid, and so they get angry because they don't understand, and then they believe like these crazy ideas that the left wants to indoctrinate our children into becoming our boys into becoming girls. They want to.
Oh, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
They want to turn all of our boys gay. It's like, no.
That's not how that works.
Our gay to be accepted to be who they are. We don't want to try to force people into to roles that they don't understand. They don't accept that.
Yeah. You know, like and
people that live literal lies and have, you know.
Yeah, they end up taking their own life because they're so unhappy with.
There's been thousands of people, you know, tens of thousands, I'm sure, probably hundreds of thousands of people who just, you know, were forced to live a certain way, who just, that they shouldn't have been forced to live. And
yeah. Oh, you know. I mean, really, in terms of like, I think you're focusing on like gay people especially, but when it comes to like trans people, holy shit, when you look at the numbers of suicide, it is like astronomical. Hold on, let's look at this. But when you look at like the difference,
homeless, huge uptick in homeless population too.
Yep. Oh, because their family just kick them out. Yeah. Let's see. There is but there's a gigantic difference between like pre and post op, or also like pre transitioning in both like through hormone therapy and like somebody who's like in the closet about their transness, or somebody who is like they're out as trans but they haven't taken the step to like confirm their identity with like medication. There is a gigantic difference between the two. Let's see. I know there was one 30% of transgender female teens said that they attempted suicide. 41% of respondents rated that. Wow. So where is it? I'm trying to find the difference between the two. Alarming levels of transgender boys and non-binary. God, there was a gigantic difference. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but the people who transition versus people who don't fully transition, the effects of having people like affirm your identity, like what you're doing by like bagging on trans people is you're actually like killing them, because all they want is just for people to affirm who they are. Like imagine your name is like Richard, and people are just like Dick. You're like I mean technically, or it could be like
you a completely different name.
Yeah, like even like something like, let's say, oh, my name's Ben. Oh, well, actually it's Benjamin. You're like, oh, well, that's okay. I go by Ben though. Well, I'm not gonna call you what you want. Why would I call you what you want? I'm just gonna call you Benjamin. That's what you actually are. Your name's Benjamin. That's what you're assigned at birth. That's what your parents gave you. Like, so many. God, like, can you just not be a dick?
Baseball cards as a kid, and so everyone's like, oh, so you have to like baseball for the rest of your life. You can't.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, I don't think I have to. And like, done. It's like,
you're done. Dunzo.
And the only thing you're allowed to like for the rest of your life is baseball. It's like, it's like that's not right.
Yeah. And dude, something that's so important, especially with this study, like for the people who argue about like the genetic biological differences between male and female, and yet at the same time are so against hormone therapy for teenagers, where the science is out. Like we know that as long as they're in like 10 or 2, 10 or 3 stage, hormone therapy, not hormone therapy, it's called puberty blockers, have been like tremendously successful in these people, and the decrease in like suicide rates is like has such a humongous effect, because they're actually able to look in the mirror and see what, like if you're like a transgender woman, and then you see that you're starting to develop like all these muscles, you're like, or if you're a transgender man and you're seeing that you're starting to develop boobs, and you're like, what the fuck, that's not who I am. Like being able to stop that at such a young age and allow these people to have more time to figure out who they are, like dramatically reduces the risk of suicide among these people. Yet at the same time, like these people will say, oh, well, you're trying to take all these young people and turn them trans. No, we're trying to give them time to decide. And at the same time, if you're somebody who gets on hormone blockers or puberty blockers when you're younger, and then you become somebody in your later years, you're somebody who plays sports, I'm pretty sure this study might have was this study or a different one. There was one study that pretty much said that if you get hormone puberty blockers when you're younger, the difference between transgender women and women, it's like gone completely, like in every category. I mean, this is literally an argument just for giving kids puberty blockers younger than what people are comfortable with.
What's the effect of hormone blockers if the person decides to change their mind?
I mean, there's not really an effect. You just stop taking them. I mean, it depends also if you depends what age you are.
Do you have the risk of like cutting your development short?
Well, so like with transgender women, they recommend you not transitioning into medically through like hormone blockers until like 10 or 3-ish, because especially if you plan on getting like sex reassignment surgery, they want your male reproductive organs to grow up large enough where they can make an inverse, invert it into like a vagina. But if the whole point is not really to, the whole point of hormone blockers is not to fully transition. It's to give people more time to decide if they want to.
No. I know.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, say,
if you're like 13 and then by the time you're like 15,
they want to transition eventually into a female.
Yeah.
Say you go on hormone blockers, like, will it stunt puberty? Are you able to go, once you do that, are you able to go and, like, if you come off them, will, like, you be...
It depends what age you're at.
You're on them for, say, 6 months. Will you be...
Oh, yeah.
Your puberty, will you be 2 inches shorter because you were on them for too long, or, like...
I mean, it's kind of hard to know what you would have been without it. But if you're like 12 and you start it and you're on it for a year, and 13 you decide I don't want to be, I'm fine with who I am, whatever. This is just a phase. Then yeah, puberty starts back up after you're done taking them.
Yeah,
I mean, you could also take like, if you want to make up for it. I mean, there's always taking like testosterone.
Take hormones the other way if you really need to. So
I mean, the problem is people who are like, who've been like trans for like 20 years and then they decide but that is such like a small portion of the transgender population. And like the opportunity cost between the two of like, for every like 1,000 trans people, having like that one person who might like be fucked in like 20 or 30 years, I think completely outweighs it. It's completely outweighed by the 1,000 people. I'd be really interested in what the study says even longer, like 5-year effects. Like if it levels out at all.
I mean, I think it's wild that we still have people that are like, oh, gay marriage shouldn't be a thing. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about like passing it through legislation is that it's a really fast way of changing society. So even if you have a lot of bigots, the next generation is born in a society where these people are accepted. It's the norm. Yeah. And also, like, you have pressure on the current bigots to either change or like be isolated and alienated. I mean, we saw the same thing with like racism. A lot of people now, even if they are racist, they're not out about it. They're pretty, unless you're in like some parts of like Alabama or Missouri. But then again, it's just a bunch of like cousins fucking each other down there. So yeah, just kidding. Not really. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is okay, here it is. Possible that these results could be different among trans women who begin gender-affirming hormone therapy shortly after the onset of puberty and never experience the ergogenic benefit. Is that the proper pronunciation?
Ergogenic.
Okay. Benefits of testosterone exposure. Further research is required. Yeah, I mean, other studies have like delved into this, but like trans issues are so like they're just beginning in the past couple of years to explore truly all these effects. And it really it's so annoying when I hear people make arguments. Like the one argument I love is when people say, "Oh, they just want to." When you say that trans people can go into the bathroom of their choice, something that has always been the case, but now they're making laws against it. Oh, they just want to go in there and rape girls. First off, what is stopping...
Yeah, they're lying about being trans because they want to go in there
and rape. Yeah.
People. I'm like...
What's stopping them from doing it right now, right? The law is still the same. And also, what's stopping
someone of the same sex from doing it?
That's what... Yeah, exactly. What's stopping the same person from just raping a little boy? And then...
I love when people argue things like gun control. They're like, criminals are going to break laws anyway, whether there's a law against it or not. And I'm like... Okay. Yeah. It's like the law against... If you don't wear your seatbelt, okay. I mean, you're still going to get pulled over. Like, right? For that argument, like...
That's why they're criminal. Yeah, criminals are going to break the law.
To sexually abuse someone, whether it's illegal or not, is going to do it, right?
Well, I love... Yeah.
On normal people. One
thing I love about the criminals are going to break the law no matter what is that it's like tautologically true. Like, no shit, that's why they're called criminals. Right? That doesn't mean we should just ignore them, right? We shouldn't just have anarchy because some people are going to break the laws. That's why you need to enforce the laws, right? Let's see. Which is why, like, regulating specific parts of the economy is important because we have laws in the books that don't have that much enforcement. But yeah, the whole idea of like, oh yeah, he's just gonna go into the bathroom and rape a bunch of people. Okay, well, I mean that same person, and also what's the reverse? Like what? They never talk about like a trans woman going, a trans man going to a man's bathroom and raping a little boy. They never. They always go to the appeal to emotion where it's like, oh, this little girl and this bulked up trans woman just gonna go in there with her beefy cock flamming out and just
literally are like it's like they picture like the biker guy with a beard who just says he's trans, and it's like, okay, I'm sure there are people who are, but like what like you know.
My question is like, what happens to that person?
It's like stereotype shit. It's like,
oh, because it paints trans people as inherently bad and like just by nature like rapists or sex offenders, which is not true at all. Whenever people say that, I honestly just say like, okay, well, what do you do when you have somebody who is, taking hormone therapy? They look on the outside as if they are that gender or that sex. Like, do you just ID every person at the bathroom door? Like, do you say, "Can I see your male license for the boys' bathroom or your female license for the girls' bathroom?" Like, no. If somebody's dressed like a guy, has got like a beard or wearing men's clothes, they go into a bathroom, they're gonna look like a man. And even with the women's bathroom, like, there's no stalls. There's no men's urinals. They're all stalls, right?
And yeah, at the end of the day, you really want to make people feel like you want to make everything the same. Just make every fucking bathroom just stalls.
Yeah. Well, I made an argument that if
rooms for most places, I know it's not really very efficient, but
I think probably the best way to solve this would probably be just get rid of the gender identification for bathrooms. Just don't even say male, female, or boy and girl. Just say like penis, vagina, or something that's more like strict boundaries instead of stuff that is so like arbitrary that it could confuse people. Like, what do you do with like I said, somebody who like that kid we were talking about before, the one that the school forced to play against the girl even though he was transitioning to be a boy. Do you force that person to go into the women's bathroom? Like, that's ridiculous. Okay, so we just went over this study. God, I really wish people like Matt Walsh, that fucking, where is this dumbass? Fucking stupid piece of shit, would just learn how to read and get off Twitter. And God, I'm gonna be honest with you, the headline just does not help. Who the fuck makes these headlines?
No, of course it doesn't. The headline is supposed to grab attention. That's what,
Hold on, I just want to read past like the second paragraph because I remember reading this and just instantly just slapping myself in the face because I'm like, this is not at all what it's trying to study or what the article is trying to say. Yeah, I'd probably say 2 years is more of like that's my argument. Oh God, but. In the third paragraph, the first fucking sentence is this right here. This is not a hot take. This has been affirmed in like multiple studies. But because of the line because they're critiquing the Olympics, which is something I've critiqued multiple times. The headline is trans women retain athletic advantage after a year on hormone therapy. Study finds. God, there's so many things that the article goes over that people like fucking Matt Walsh just, I can't read, I'm not gonna do it, okay.
Got it. The zenith.
And all it does is just add to the hate and the, oh my gosh, like perfectly going along with the article, the study about anger, right? You hear all this misinformation and you're already predisposed to not like these people. And then you're angry because you're like, oh my God, they're fucking, these big juicy girls are going up against these small tiny little women. Oh my God. And then you see the headline, you're like, yes, this is absolutely true, without actually reading the study, which goes against everything you think.
Oh my God, this weapon is fucking insane, Chris.
Wait, what's it called?
The zenith.
Oh, that's the last sword of the game, right?
Yeah.
Fuck, damn it.
It just flies.
Wait, that's the one that goes like 360, right?
Dude, it goes as far as my cursor.
That's fuck. Does it go through the wall? Wait, does it go through the wall though?
Yes.
Really? Oh my God. All right. Guys, we're done talking about this. We're gonna talk about something else later.
Lord fight on Discord for you.
Yay.
Uh,